Now, how many of you know who the 47th president of these United States is? How many of you are aware that the man who runs the Trump organization happens to be a man by the name of Eric Trump? How many of you know that? Now, think about the profundity of this idea. Eric is 41 years old, but 8 years ago, could you imagine being a 33-year-old man and your dad says, hey, by the way, I'm going to run for president. So you're going to have to run an organization with 4,000 employees, billions of dollars of assets. Could you imagine handing over your business to a 33-year-old son? Could you imagine that? So it's like, okay, step one, dad, go save the free world. Son, go run the business. And through the Reawaken America tour, I really gravitated towards Eric Trump because we keep a very similar schedule and we have a very similar philosophy, which involves to-do lists, calendars, relentless follow-up. And he's really become a friend. And I could not be more excited to introduce our next speaker. So Sean, hit the intro music. Everybody stand to your feet. All right, Sean, crank it up. And now, ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, without any further ado, we have got the husband of Laura Trump, an incredible father, a great American, my brother from another mother, and the son of the 47th president of these United States. I think he's here. If he's not, it'll get very awkward. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand to your feet and greet the man with the plan, Eric Trump! Fresh from the State of the Union, Eric Trump is in the house. Tulsa, Jerusalem. There he is. He's here. Yes, Eric, I'll give you the hot mic. Here you go.
Look at you. So, guys, I was here, when was I last year? What, 2 months ago? 3 months ago? None of this was built. This is incredible. The amount of work you did in here is like wild. And by the way, in typical Clay fashion, he sold every square inch of this place, right? So he's a hell of a businessman. I'm very impressed, Clay.
Well, we're going to do kind of a Q&A, so you guys can grab a seat if you want here. We'll do a little Q&A. And what I told Eric is I said, Eric, I really wanted to have you come talk about business. And so we're going to try to do today, the ground rules are, although we all may have geopolitical concerns, we're going to focus on just business. And I'm going to try to tap into your brain. We're going to try to tap into your brain during a 90-minute. We'll do 2 45-minute sessions, and then we'll let you get back to saving the free world while running the company. So question number one I have, what time do you typically wake up or in a typical day as you're running the Trump organization?
About 5 every morning. Typically, I'm up at 5, in the gym somewhere around 6, work out for about an hour, grab as much protein as I can, eat it, and go over to the office. So that's generally my morning.
So then how does your day look? A typical day now, you're 41 years old, you're running the organization, you got kids, you got an incredible wife, what does it look like now?
Yeah. You know, I think days morph over the years, right? I think schedules change, and I think that's a positive and maybe a negative in certain ways. I'm a person who actually believes in great consistency. I try, but I was on a campaign trail for 6 months. So now for the first time, it's kind of nice to come home and, take your kids to school once in a while, pick them up once in a while, right? I mean, that's important. You got to get a little bit of family time in there. And before kids, I was in probably the office a lot earlier than I ever was. And now you try and give back to them a little bit, especially when, for the first 5 and 7 years of their life, respectively, I was probably away a lot more than I think you'd want as a parent. And I think that's something that every parent probably grapples with. It's, how can you be successful here? How can you be successful here? How can you give them time? How can you give your company time? And, in my case, thousands of employees that we have all over the world. And, I always lived in almost a state of guilt, which was, if I was with my kids, I was away from our team. If I was with my team, I was away from the kids, right? And that's probably something that everybody in here balances in some way, shape, or form. But I do. I try and make the time to take the kids to school, hold my son's hand on the way there. And it might be 10 minutes to take him, 15 minutes to take him, but I think that means a lot. And so if I get to the office at 8:30, that's typically why, because I'm, typically trying to spend a couple minutes with them. But, family's super important. And, oftentimes that jives with small business and just business in general. It really does. There's only so many hours in a day. It's impossible to be everywhere and everything to every person. And it's probably the things that the people in here struggle with the most.
Now, your dad, my understanding is, I don't want to butcher the story, but I believe your dad still messes with you by calling you sometimes like at 5 a.m. or pre-5 a.m. just to see if you're awake. Is this walk us through what is that like having Donald J. Trump as your father?
Well, it got really bad, right, for a while because there was like a cold war in our family, and he would do that. He'd call me like 4:50 in the morning. Honey, are you awake? Well, yeah, I'm awake. I'm freaking speaking to you, right? Yeah, I'm awake. And then that same night it'd be like 11:30, and he'd call up, hey, are you awake? And I'm like, yeah, I'm awake, right? And so a couple weeks later, he's doing this like almost every day just to test me. And like a couple weeks later, I was dead asleep, and I pick up, and I mean, when you pick up the phone and you're not quite awake. Yeah, I'm awake. He's like, you're not awake. You're not awake. I'm like, you're right. You caught me sleeping. I'm sorry. It's 11:45 at night, and I wake up at 5. So, no, he's remarkable. He's a guy who's always operated on very little sleep, and I'm actually a guy who believes in sleep. I mean, there are days where you just don't get enough sleep, and you drag, and you're not nearly as motivated, and you're not nearly as productive, right? We all have those days, but he's always been a guy who could just run at 1,000 miles an hour on no sleep. I mean, I'll never forget the last night of the campaign coming back. Our last stop was in Michigan. I mean, literally, we landed at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? And there was no sleeping the entire time, right? It was Guns N' Roses was on the TV, right? Like music video, November Rain. I'll never forget it. So you've got Stephanie Seymour and Slash, and you've got this whole thing. The music's blasting. You're coming back. No one slept for like 72 hours. And he's just going strong, and it's amazing. Certain people have that kind of genetic. This guy has those genes. This guy never freaking stops. I mean, he never stops. But a lot of that I think comes out of love and passion for whatever you're doing. I think if you ultimately like what you're doing, you're going to be fired up and you're going to run hard. And if you can't stand what you're doing, you're probably going to be unmotivated and you're probably not going to run hard, right? And that's probably a good lesson as to pick the things you love doing in life and run at them.
Now, a couple of things that I really, and this isn't like an infomercial for Eric Trump. This is just real. This is real conversations. My wife and I. How many of you meet someone for the first time and use a couple talk about it afterwards? You go, what was that? We're having dinner with you and General Flynn. First time we'd had a meal together, and you said, "Hey guys, just for a second, I need to take this call." And you got out, you made a call, and you didn't make a big deal about it. And then you came back, and I didn't ask you who you were calling, and you're like, "Hey, I'm sorry I had to get up there. I just I want to check in with the wife and kids." Then General Flynn was like, "What were you just doing?" And you go, "Well, every night, I call my wife and my kids, no matter where in the world I am, and I pray with my kids, and we can you walk us through your routine? Because I was moved by, you didn't mention why you were getting up. General Flynn was asking what was happening there. Could you walk us through that daily routine?
So most of my life, I've been on the road 200 days a year, right? I actually feel like the last 6 weeks, kind of coming off campaign, I've actually been the most sedentary I've ever been, which is kind of nice. You're trying to get back to the normal. But typically my average year is, 200, 210 days on a plane. And if you multiply that, I mean, today I'm doing 4 flights, so you multiply that across a year on a busy year. And so many of my projects for a company all over the world, I'm heading to all over Europe next week and, back to the Middle East in a couple of weeks. And so we're all over the place. But I mean, I grew up, I'm getting to the answer to your question. This is the weave, right?
The weave.
But what ends up happening is you're away from home a decent amount. You end up using FaceTime as a way to connect with your kids, right? It's awfully nice when the last thing that you can see before they go to bed is your face, and they can call you in the morning, and it's a great kind of connector. For as much as I hate certain technologies, because I think they perverse, and pervert the world, FaceTime is actually, if somebody's busy, Facebook time is a great way to actually see your children in a way that you're present with them in a way that they probably understand in this age, while during a time when you otherwise wouldn't be present, right? Go back 20 years ago when you had to call 1-800 to collect. This would not have worked, right? And that's actually a benefit. But we came up with a thing. We started saying prayers every single night with our kids. We'd always say the Pledge of Allegiance first. And then we did, 3 little prayers, 2 of which I said as a kid. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep, right? So we do that one. My daughter loves, there are 4 corners. She calls it the 4 corners prayer, but there are 4 corners on my bed, 4 inches overhead: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. God bless this bed that I lay on. So my daughter loves that. And then they do the Lord's Prayer. And honestly, it's been like an amazing thing. And then last but not least, and as they've gotten older, I've kind of incorporated this. I always ask them, what's one nice thing that you've done for somebody today? And what's one nice thing that somebody's done for you today? I asked my son and I asked my daughter that. And it's really interesting to see their kind of answers develop over time. But it's been an amazing transformation for them. I mean, first of all, if you just look at the Lord's Prayer, it's not like an easy thing to get through when you're 2 years old. So I think, from a kind of vocabulary standpoint, I think it was kind of amazing for both kids. Second of all, we have never had a problem with our kids sleeping. It's like, we do the Pledge of Allegiance, we do the prayers, And like that is their instinctive light switch that it's, it's game over. They're down. They're going to bed. There's no more fun and games. And so in a certain way, there's almost this like, psychological discipline that's been created at night. And we always do this, typically 8:45 every night. And you're right. You're with me that one night, and Laura called up, or I'll call her, and let's do prayers quickly. Sometimes it's an abbreviated version, but it's one of the greatest things that I found with my kids and with Laura, and in terms of trying to keep us together in a world that sometimes is not always easy to be together.
There's a print piece I put up over there by my desk, and it says, I have not approved this message, but I might after I've looked at it, Eric Trump. Because that to me is sort of what you would say. You're a very high standards guy. You have very high standards, but you're also a very compassionate guy. And I just want to tell you my little Eric story. I met you at one of the golf courses there near where you live. And your valet gentleman, he parks the car, and he was anticipating us being there. He said, "Hey, Mr. Trump's looking forward to meeting you." And I'm thinking, that's interesting. You're communicating. I grab a seat. The waitress, very nice lady, she says, "Hey, Mr. Trump looks forward to meeting you." And then what impressed me is that you came in to grab your seat, and you knew her name, and you knew the valet guy's name. And I'm going, you have 6,000 employees. How long can this game continue? So throughout the meal, everyone, you're like, hey, Carl, hey, Sarah, hey, whatever. You knew everyone's name. And I'm thinking, that's wild. But you're also the guy who's fastidious about the bushes being cut immaculately, the light bulbs being perfect, everything. How do you balance that follow-up where you're following up with the employees over some tedious, high expectation things, but yet you still have that rapport? To me, that is awesome.
Well, it's kind of why we never want to be in Marriott, right? I never want to be a Hilton. I never want to be one of these big companies, because you simply can't have control of, not even control, but you can't have those interpersonal relationships. And, if you look at our company, the average tenure, if you haven't been in our company for 20 years, you're like a newbie, right? Once you come into our organization, you just never leave. And, I think that's a beautiful thing, but it's unlike so many of the Fortune 500s, and everybody says that they've got great corporate cultures. They all, write these pamphlets about it. We don't have any pamphlets about corporate culture. We just truly love the people that work in the company, and they love us. I mean, we went through the hell of politics for a 10-year period, and I don't think I lost a single person, right? I mean, they were in there fighting every day. You look at the political apparatus where every single day somebody's coming out with a tell-all book. We didn't have any of those in our company. And it was just it was a beautiful thing, but it's because we know everybody. They were they were born in the company. They typically work their way up. We hardly ever promote from outside. And I know that's so contradictory to so many businesses, but we'll give somebody the opportunity who's 3 tiers down that ladder over the person who's, the greatest general manager from the Ritz-Carlton, because the young person will sit there and they will fight and they will work and they're appreciative of the opportunity and they want to grow. If all of a sudden you've got this organization where, every single time a new job opportunity comes up, somebody from the outside who's never worked for the company, who's never kind of spilled that blood, sweat, and tears, who have never put in the hours, who have never tried to go the extra yard, if every single time they're usurped for a person from the outside that doesn't have that camaraderie, you grow a lot of disgruntled people, and they end up leaving because they realize that, their time frame is short, or they'll never get to ultimately where they want, right? And so it actually creates greater turnover. And, so many of the people in the company, you ask, how do you know them all? I know them all because they've all been with the company for 10, 15, 20 years. They've all grown from, so oftentimes, a maitre d' or a hostess in a restaurant to food and beverage manager, to clubhouse manager, to assistant general manager, to general manager. I mean, we have drivers in the company, people that used to literally drive us to school, drive my father around New York, who, are in charge of some of the biggest buildings in the world. And I'll give you an example. Trump Las Vegas, there's a guy named Brian Boudreau. He literally, when I was 6 years old, used to take me to school. He'd drive my father around, and we started building this project, and we needed somebody to bring architects out to Las Vegas. And guess what? This guy always had his hand up. You know what? I'll take them out there. Brian, you sure? Yeah, sure. I'll go. I know where the site is. I'll tour them around the site. No problem. I'll take great care of them. Make sure they have a great time. 2 weeks later, he's taking the bankers. Yeah, sure. I'll take the people who are going to finance the construction of this project. I'll take them out there, right? He always had his hand up. And hey, you need to go find contractors to build this thing. Oh, I'll go line up all the best contractors. No problem. I'll show them the site. I've already been in touch with the architects and how to put all the pieces together. They just always had their hand up. And so, long story short, we built that building. Brian Boudreau started as driver, no college education. On paper, any Fortune 500 company would have overlooked him. He had street smarts. He had drive. I mean, he just never ever stopped. People loved him. Finished the building ahead of schedule, ahead of budget. And I'll never forget, it was the one time though, and it's one of the reasons I use that analogy about bringing in the person from the Ritz-Carlton, but it's the one time that we brought in a general manager from the outside world. The person lasted about 3 months and it just wasn't working. They just weren't, the pocket square, and it wasn't working. They weren't fast enough. They weren't responsive enough. They didn't have that grit. They didn't have that fortitude. And Brian put his hand back up. He goes, listen, I know nothing about running a hotel. I've never done it. But I guarantee you I'll figure it out. Let me handle this. I'll take care of it. And sure enough, Brian became general manager, and here we are 15 years later, and he's still managing the hotel. And it's one of the most successful projects in Vegas. So if there's ever, and we do that across the board, but I mean, there's 2 lessons there. Always ask, always have your hand up. And so long as you're willing to work, forget about the resumes on paper. I can't tell you how many great resumes we see on paper where the people ultimately absolutely let you down. It's easier to make something look great on, black and white. That's very different than character and grit and work ethic and street smarts, probably more than anything. It's a big part of our company.
Now, again, this is not an Eric Trump infomercial. It's just real. You know how I am. I'm sort of irreverent. I just say what's on my cranium here. But as I was researching you and how quickly you've expanded the Trump organization since you took over at the age of 33-ish. And I was thinking to myself, like, Eric, you're 40 years old. That's about the time your dad wrote The Art of the Deal. And I remember reading The Art of the Deal, and I remember reading the book going, he wrote this when he's 41 years old. And so as you're, working on your book and the whole thing, I'm just so excited for people to learn about these stories that are in this book. And it's just so exciting. But one of them that stands out, one of your stories, was you and your dad are driving in the car, and your dad's like, that is a hell of a wall. That's a great wall, Eric, or something. He's like, can we got to pull over and go look at this wall. And could you tell everybody this story? Because I'm reading this manuscript for this upcoming book, and I'm going, Eric and his dad are excited about the guy who builds the wall. I, too, am excited about the guy who builds the wall. Tell us about the guy who built the wall. So this is such a great story.
So I was 9 or 10 years old. We were driving in Westchester, New York, and there was this guy, they're kind of a lone stonemason. This guy's name is Frank Sanzo on the side of the road. And I'll never forget, he looks at me, he goes, that's the most incredible stone wall I've ever seen. Right? And this is like the hard granite, this is kind of like East Coast hard granite stone. It's tough stuff to work with. It doesn't break very easily, right? But it's beautiful. And he pulls over and he starts talking to the guy, and they start talking about, obviously the wall, where he came from. He came from Italy, came over as a really young boy, came over with nothing in his pocket, and it became a great, stonemason effectively. And they start talking about, whether or not you want dry pack walls or you want a wet pack walls, right? Whether or not you want, wet mortar or dry mortar, or, how he cuts the stones, what is thing. They speak for 45 minutes, and he goes, at the end of this, he goes, you got to come work for me. I want to give you all my business, but you got to come work for us. And so I started working at 11. I started working under Frank Sanzo on job sites, and he was just this guy was truly, truly incredible. And this guy ended up building the vast amount of properties that we have. A big part of his soul is in all those properties, and he really became family to us. He became a second father to me. I grew up on construction sites with him, but those are the opportunities, right? I mean, this is a guy who literally pulls over to see the lone stonemason. And what's really amazing is, I'm not sure if Frank at the time really understood his true talent. So not only did he kind of come work for an organization that kind of pushed that talent, but I actually think my father built up his personality. Frank, you're the best. This guy is the greatest stonemason I've ever seen. He would hear that over and over and over, and it actually made him kind of believe in himself, because he went from building residential stone walls, nice, kind of home stone walls, to, building some of the greatest patios, some of the greatest, really icons in the hotel world and so many other things. And I'm not sure if he didn't have that kind of encouragement, if somebody wasn't sitting there being almost a cheerleader for him, if he would have ever actually developed the true skill that he ended up with, 20 years later. And this guy was amazing. I mean, I remember we had a pool at Trump Doral, and he's been to Doral, but it had this massive waterfall. It was a little gaudy, right? We bought the hotel. We had to put a lot of money into it. And no one was willing to take down this waterfall. It was a solid piece of concrete that cantilevered over the pool. And you're trying, how do you get that out of there without, small cuts, a crane to take out a piece? And every bid was coming back. It was either astronomical, or they were coming back saying, it's not possible. You're just going to destroy everything around the pool. And I'll never forget, Frank goes, I'll take care of it. And I literally left, and he had a he had a backhoe, like a big excavator with a stone hammer on it, and he is hitting this pool, and I'm sitting there, and he's smoking 2 Marlboro Reds. My lungs are still polluted from this grab. I mean, literally, like my lungs still ache from Frank Sanzo's Marlboro Red. He's got this pot of coffee, this track hoe. It's on tracks, right? But it's literally off of one track. The thing's bouncing all around. We're sitting there saying, first of all, the pool deck is done, right? It's not going to be salvageable. Second of all, there's no way the pool's going to hold water because he's going to drop about 50 tons of concrete right into the bottom of the pool. All the piping's going to be busted, right? And there's a good chance that Frank Sanzo is going to be dead by the time we come back a couple hours later, and sure enough, the biggest piece of concrete cantilevered over this thing you've ever seen. It's in the bottom of the pool. Don't get me wrong. The pool is half destroyed, but he got a job done that no one else was willing to do. And that was just, it spoke to kind of grit and tenacity. And, but so many people in the company are grown that way. Again, guy on the side of the road. Wow. Amazing stone wall. You see the talent. He always had the ability to see talent in people and then actually take that talent and almost make them better by kind of reassuring them and building up their own confidence. And I always thought that was an amazing trait.
Now, one thing that I've noticed about, there's principles that we're distilling here, but one is you don't read resumes. There's somebody out here, people always ask me, Clay, how can you read resumes and know who's the best fit? Again, look it up, Sean, pull it up on the screen. Inc. magazine now says that 85% of job candidates admit to just making up what's on their resume. So I would just say, free yourself from the jackassery, interview people, and then just see what they can do and promote from within. Just free yourself from the jackassery. Stop reading resumes. The second thing I notice is that you're very kind to people, but you have a high expectation. You're kind, but you have a high expectation. That's a principle I've witnessed. Third thing I've noticed is you follow up constantly. As an example, for Laura's birthday, I think she was turning 25 again, and you had lowered your standards and you invited me. And so I'm here, and I'm kind of going, I don't know anybody here. I know Eric. That'll be my wingman. I'll find him. We'll be fine here. My wife and I are there, and it was a great event. Wonderful people were there. Unbelievable first-class accommodations. Everything was great. But then the next morning, 5, probably 10 a.m., I get a text. Boom. It's you texting saying, how was it? And I'm going, I didn't text myself, did I? Because I normally text people at 4 in the morning, 5. I'm like, did I text myself to ask myself how the party was? No, it's Eric Trump. And so I call you and I'm going, hey brother. And you're going, was it good? Did you have a good time? Did your wife meet some people? Were the accommodations okay? Do you guys have fun? And I'm going, that level of follow-up is awesome. It's just this obsession with could you talk about that mindset that you and your dad both have? Because it is so prevalent, just the follow-up of making sure that even a guest at a birthday party has a great time.
Where's your wife, by the way?
She is. Was my wife? Is she hiding somewhere? James, call my wife. She's probably here hiding.
By the way, how he landed her is like beyond me, right? I still. Isn't Vanessa the absolute greatest? She's the absolute greatest. Honestly, I actually think follow-up is almost one of the hardest things for me, right? I get bombarded. Every single person here does. This is not a problem unique to me, but every single one of us gets thousands of text messages. We get thousands of emails. Half of it's spam, half of it's junk. 3/4 of the time, if you're in business, is somebody asking you for a favor, which they probably wouldn't pay back to you if right. I mean, you deal with this every single day, and I think given how many different mediums there are of social media now, then you've got people asking you for things on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, right? And and then you have Signal and you have WhatsApp and you have all the different chats, and then you've got Facebook Messenger, and it's almost become so dilutive to time, that I think one of the hardest things in modern day life is actually trying to keep up and be responsive, all because, you no longer, back in the day, okay, you could call somebody and that was the expectation, you'd call, but now there's 50 different forms of getting in touch with people. Like, are you on WhatsApp or are you not? Is that how you are you communicating as a high school friend through Facebook or not? Do I have to go check 9 of these things every single day? All while people are living an incredibly busy life, of which they can hardly keep up with, to begin with. But I think for people that really matter, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to not that everybody doesn't matter, but you've got to prioritize what's important to you. I'm actually a very big list person. I start every day with a very big list, and half the days I think you end up getting frustrated because the list grows longer than the things that you're actually able to accomplish. But what I always do is I always take an arrow and I always put objects at the top of the list that actually matter to me. So the first things that you get to are the things that ultimately either influence your life or what you want to accomplish, or the things that are ultimately important to your company. right? Those rise to the top, and the stuff that slides down, well, guess what? It's just less relevant, less important. And that's okay as long as you're taking care of the things that again are really kind of accretive to your lifestyle, accretive to your company, accretive to your family, accretive to whatever you're trying to accomplish. And so I really do think that, listen, you've got a nominal amount of time in a day. You've got 24 hours. You could sit there and you could check every single meeting to every single of the 1,000 text messages you have. And guess what? You're not going to see your kids. You're not going to see your wife. You're probably going to get divorced because of it. There's got to be some level of balance in terms of being responsive to and finding that balance. And it's tricky because no one wants to insult people. No one wants to not be that person for every single, but at the same time, you have responsibilities in your own life. And I try and get to the people who I love the most, the first.
Is Dr. Zellner here? Dr. Zellner, are you here? Dr. Z, is he here? Dr. Z. One of the things is he's here somewhere. He's lurking. Dr. Z has been a big mentor in my life. And one of the things he told me, he said, Clay, don't overestimate people's curiosity. Like, don't take 30 minutes to explain what can be explained in 3 minutes. And that's one thing I've tried to do is respect your time as we've gotten to know each other. And I think you have this balance that you have figured out where you've probably watched your father, you've seen your dad. You're not building Legos with your dad, but you're actually building buildings with your dad at a young age. Like your dad, you weren't probably, your dad wasn't at your basketball games, but yet you're playing video games with Michael Jackson while your dad's talking about building a building. And could you maybe just talk about the Trump experience of just being raised? Like, what was that like having him as your dad?
Jesus, how much time do you have? Yeah, I mean, listen, I wasn't, I say this kind of tongue in cheek, but not really. I mean, I wasn't, it was less the wiffle ball in the backyard, but I was flying with Michael Jackson to and don't go there, people out there, you sick, twisted human beings. But he'd be performing at the casinos, and you'd be flying down. You'd be flying down with Mike Tyson, right? With Don King, with Michael Jackson, with all these very cool people, right? So in a certain way, you'd be walking through a casino, and it might be all business. But like you were a very, very small, young part of this kind of entourage. And so, there was less wiffle ball, but there was much more of that, right? It was, you go to a 70-story building that's coming out of the ground in New York City, there's guys walking on I-beams, 20 floors above your head, concrete's being poured, rebars being put down, right? I mean, and you're walking through these job sites, as a little kid, just looking out, no windows, no anything, right? Just looking out over the skyline of New York. And I wouldn't trade any of those memories for the other. And I understand how important the other is. I try and play pig with does anybody know what pig is? Right? I try and do that every night with my kids, with my son before he goes to bed. It's a little basketball game. It's like if you make a shot and he doesn't, you get a letter, and whoever spells pig first. That stuff, don't get me wrong, is super important, but it was very unconventional for me. I mean, so many of the unique kind of experiences I had in my life were in just situations that couldn't be duplicated. And, I put almost more emphasis in my life on those situations than some of the conventional, right? Knowing that this was a guy that ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He wasn't screwing off. He wasn't taking vacations. This is a guy who's literally never taken a vacation in his life. He was working really hard. And those times you had together actually made it almost more special, than kind of the ordinary.
Now, this is a question I have for you. I want to share a little story. One thing, this just into those of you who aren't aware, I represent the far right regions of Christianity. Okay, so I'm like a very literal Bible guy. And you joined the Reawaken tour, and you were open to, we had Dr. Rashid Battar on the stage, who was Muslim. You had Dr. Zelenko, who is Jewish. Your brother-in-law is obviously Jewish. You now have an international company all over the world, all different faiths, all different backgrounds. What is your approach to dealing with all the different faiths, all the different backgrounds? Because I am like this unapologetic Christian guy, but I see you get along with people that have different faiths and different backgrounds, and your organization is all over the world. What is your approach to just in the workplace, dealing with different faiths, different worldviews? How do you approach that?
That's very simple. I like good people. For me, it's clearly I'm a Christian. I just told you about the prayers I say every night, but I can't tell you how many, great Jewish people we have in our organization, great Muslims we have in our organization, great Christians, great atheists, a lot of it. But I just care about good people. I like people with heart and soul. I like people who truly care. And you can flush that out in a person very, very quickly, right? To me, it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. Like, in life, I believe in happiness in society, right? At the end of the day, it's kind of my guiding force, right? And that's the political view of mine, but that's also it's probably a moral view and maybe a religious view. If people are happy in society, you've got a great society, right? And at the end of the day, I think we should tailor our actions toward happiness. And how do you have happiness? Well, you have a great job, you have a great work environment, you have a great government, you get great education, right? You're safe. All those things determine happiness in society, and I think that's actually what wins the day for me. As long if you're a good person, if you're happy, if you can work hard, none of the other things matter to me. Why should I care how you go home and pray if it's meaningful to you? And so I literally don't think about that question. I'm not sure if I've ever thought about that question. Yeah. And again, this is coming from a guy who's clearly a good Christian. And so I like good people. I like very good people.
Now, when I was on this is true story. We were in Oregon together, and the event in Oregon, you were there in Oregon, and we rented a venue, and the venue canceled because it was too political or something. Then another venue canceled, so we had to rent a parking lot and then put a tent. It was like a $600,000 semi-permanent structure we had to erect outside. Vanessa couldn't come to this one. There's Vanessa. She couldn't come. So I found myself basically alone in Oregon with our team, but my wife wasn't there, and she's kind of my security blanket. So I'm going, I don't know what's happening. Then Antifa showed up. They shut down the local Target in protest. They gave kids the day off at college in protest. They shut down the phone stores. And I just remember thinking, they closed all the shopping centers. I'm going, this is wild. And so I'm talking to you backstage, and you're like, so I flew commercial, I flew in. And again, the people around me are going, he flies commercial? I mean, what's it like to be the son of the man who's trying to save the free world, knowing that, maybe 45% of the people on the plane don't agree with you or whatever that is? Because you're just so used to being in that. You were a very calming, steadying voice to a lot of the speakers behind the stage, telling them, guys, this will be fine. Don't worry about Antifa. We'll be fine. But what's it like just living through that every day?
Well, by the way, go back a little bit. Clay calls me about 3 days before. He goes, yeah, we're going to have Antifa all over this event. Are you sure you want to come? I go, I told you I was going to be there. I'm going to be there, Clay. I'm going to. Now, Secret Service, and by the way, we love the men and women of the Secret Service. They're the greatest. They would not have been thrilled about this event. Literally, Antifa was trying to march. This was in Portland, right? Let's put this in perspective. Yep. This was in Portland in like the height of like the madness. And I go, Clay, I told you I was going to be there. I'm going to be there. And so anyway, they started leaving the little spike strips, remember, in the parking lot. Yep. A couple punctured tires, a couple other things. But I finished up the speech. It was unbelievable. I mean, when you go to like a very blue district that gets no attention paid to them, right? You wouldn't believe the love that comes out. I know that sounds. It's like they had never seen a Republican come through Portland before, and literally the masses showed up. This tent was like overflowing. It was such an amazing event. Anyway, people loved it. People had the greatest time. I had like an hour to kill before the flight, so we go to this little restaurant. I'll never forget. It was like this German bratwurst place. It was funny, and he has this great security guy that would always take me to and from the airport named Jay, and Jay was ex-Special Forces, and Jay's sitting there looking. He goes, yeah, these people are surrounding this like little German sausage place. and he goes, we better get the hell out of here. I go, Jay, we're going to finish our bratwurst or whatever the hell we were eating that night. And he goes, no, like we really need to get out of here. I'm like, I don't care if we have to personally fight off every one of these. I won't say it because somebody's filming us, but I don't care how bloody and torn our shirts get, but like we are not leaving this damn place. Like I'm not succumbing to the freaking Antifa people in Portland. And but by the way, I think a little bit of that to me was if you say you're going to do something, do it, right? In life, if you say you're going to do something, do it. And I think 3/4 of the speakers bailed from that event because of what was happening, and it wasn't perfect. But hey, you and I had a great time.
Now the other, there's been a few emotional moments that we had there, and I'll bring my wife up here. But I was on the phone with you, and your dad was giving this a little talk in Butler, and I'm on the phone with you. And we're talking, and I'm driving to Grand Lake, and I'm on the phone with you, and then you go, what the? And then the phone dropped, and I could tell the phone was still on, and I'm going, I have no idea what's going on, and out of respect, I just hung up my wife sends me a text and said, someone just shot Eric's dad. And I remember I just pulled over. James, you were in the car with me. So I pulled over in my van and I just couldn't stop weeping because I felt like I was there with you. I'm on the phone. Next thing you know, I hear you go, what the? And you put the phone down and then I hang up. My wife texts me, says, President Trump's been shot and Eric's dad's been shot. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do with these emotions. So I pulled over. And I just told James, I like to cry alone. That's my move. Like a cat dies alone in the woods. I like to. So I pulled over and I was just like, dear Jesus, please be with President Trump right now. I didn't know he was alive. I didn't know about the victory, the painting right there of that moment. I didn't know about that. All I knew is that you're my friend. And I was just going, please be with my friend. And I probably should have been praying for your dad more, but I was praying for you because I knew you. Could you talk about that moment and what that was like watching that? Because I was just praying with you. Everything was in me. And I'll let Vanessa ask you a follow-up question there. But
yeah, I remember I was actually I was in New York. I had my kids in my lap, right? We were watching it. I was actually working on an email and I was talking to this guy. And I grew up in doing a lot of competitive shooting. That was always my thing, right? A lot of long range rifle, a lot of competitive shotgun, and a lot of other things. I understand the sound of gunfire, right? It's kind of something I know very well. And so it came as a, let me actually rephrase this. I'm not sure if it came as a shock because about 3 weeks before I was on Fox News and I said, they've tried everything they can to try and destroy a man's life. I've sat in a courthouse with him every single day for, 7 weeks, but really going in and out of courtrooms every single day as they try to, wage illegal lawfare stuff on him. And I actually said to Sean Hannity that night, I go, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to kill him. And I'll never forget. And Kim, who's kind of, where's Kim? She's the greatest over here. She'll remember the incoming that she got in the company. Eric says that they're going to try and kill him. And I go, honestly, it'd be like the least shocking thing that right? I mean, they had tried everything else to take him out of the race. They'd gone after him. They had smeared him. They had lied. They had made up the Russia hoax. They had, taken him off of the ballot in Maine and Colorado. They had done everything they could. They tried to subpoena us into oblivion. They tried to literally bankrupt our company. And I said that day, I go, it'd be the least surprising thing if they tried to whack him. And that's exactly what ended up happening. And, it's deeply personal. A lot of people on that stage are people that are very, very close to me. Aside from my father, you see a guy that has blood running down his face, coming out of the competitive kind of rifle world, 120-yard shot. That's a chip shot. I mean, a lot of people in this room will do that with a pistol, right? Like and so you're sitting there saying, how lucky did he actually get? We lost Corey that day. In fact, his wife and his 2 daughters were sitting next to me at the State of the Union 2 nights ago. We've got to know them very well. At the same time, it was a moment that I do believe that God was there. The flag, right? And I'm not really a sappy person. I'm kind of like over the sap in life, but the flag folded up looking like a perfect angel about 3 minutes before, right above his head. That doesn't just normally happen, right? This big, massive flag that's the size of this room that was hung between, 2 fire trucks and their ladders. And there was a lot of interesting little signs that day, but no, there's no question he was kept on this earth for the purpose that he's in right now, right? I think there's a lot of people in here who would agree. But crazy. It's really amazing talking about always being there. I think I was the first person that spoke to him. I spoke to him, literally in the hospital, 7 minutes later. They got him there very quickly. But the last thing he said to me after cracking, actually, surprisingly, a couple mild jokes, right? Because he was just trying to do anything that he could to defray how uncomfortable this whole situation was. But he goes, nothing changes. We're going to Milwaukee exactly when we said we were going. We're not changing the time whatsoever. Listen, you're in the hospital. You just got shot, right? And you're really talking about going to the convention the day before the convention even started. Remember, conventions are 4 days long, and it kind of builds up to the final day, right? And exactly 48 hours after that incident, exactly 48 hours, it was on the very first day of the convention at about 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. I was the guy from the state of Florida who was the delegate who ended up making him the Republican nominee for president of the United States. And so when you look at the pendulum of life, it's you've got these highs, you've got these lows, and it's amazing sometimes how fast they come, right? Oftentimes you think the highs and lows are spread out over years. And honestly, I think that was a great example that they're oftentimes not. You had the worst low followed by almost the greatest high, if you can think about it, because it's like they didn't get him. And now we're going to get you guys. We're going to win. We're going to get you guys.
Now, one thing I want to let my wife ask you. By the way, you asked, where's my wife? There she is. That's my wife here.
Did you hear what I said before? I said the fact that he landed you is like beyond shocking to me.
He's wonderful. He's wonderful.
He's great.
Now, I will say this. As far as adults that I pray for, I pray for you. I pray for all my clients I work with. But what I do is I'm driving in my car. I just try to pray and that God, Ephesians chapter 1 verse 16 through 18, but that God is supposed to pray without ceasing, that God would give you wisdom, revelation, knowledge, and understanding. And I really obsessively pray for you, and I pray for my wife, and I probably should express my feelings more, explain that I'm like really obsessed that Jesus works a big work in your life, because you are your father's cupbearer. I mean, you run the organization, and I know my wife shares that same. We pray for you all the time, and so I just want you to know, before my wife begins asking you passive aggressive attacking questions, we pray for you. I'm just kidding, but here you go.
Oh, no, I don't even know what I'm asking. No, I just want to say that we appreciate you guys. When I look at earlier today, I know Clay randomly called me up. I wasn't expecting it, and I just want to say that Clay and I could have never imagined to be in a position where we're even speaking to, you, the president's son. And somehow, as small business coaches in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we were thrust into this position, and I'm very, very, very thankful for it. And I know that God has his hand on you, on Laura, on Vanessa, on Don Jr., on Ivanka, on Jared, on Melania, and on your dad. And it's to fulfill the plans and purposes that God has. And I was just listening to Clay say that he prays for you, but you don't understand what a miracle that is, because this is the same guy who, when our son was born blind, banned me from praying, because he thought I was crazy. And he said, any God who allowed an innocent baby to be born blind, either A, isn't all powerful because he couldn't stop it, or B, isn't good because he could have stopped it and didn't. And he goes, and any God like that, I will not pray to. And he goes, and you don't need to pray to him either. You need to go enroll him in the school for the blind. Like, there was a waiting list. So all I'm saying is that God, I know for a fact, is working through your family. And when there is a moment, whatever that is, that your dad, you, anyone in there is called to do something, you all will know and will not be able to miss it. So.
Amen. You know what? I have to say one thing, though. Vanessa, you totally minimized yourself, right? So you called yourself just small business coaches. Let me put this in perspective. These guys spent, I don't know how many years, at least 3 years of your life.
4 years.
4 years of your life. Putting on 25 Reawaken events?
25 events, yep.
I think I spoke at like 19 of them, right? I mean, I met these guys. They were a couple into it, and I started speaking at them, and I religiously went to, I think I only had to miss one because I was hosting
and you subbed out your brother. You said, can I sub out my brother in exchange? I said, we'll accept the
Which
trade.
wasn't nearly as much fun, all right? Don's like the second child. He's the first child, but he's kind of the second. The impact that these two guys had on the political landscape in this country, I cannot tell you how meaningful it was. And by the way, I also can't tell you how uncomfortable it was. They went after Clay like he was a dog. They went after the family. They went after the organization. They went after Reawaken. They went after the speakers as if it was a group. And these were the most beautiful events that you've ever seen. I mean, 25 events, thousands and thousands and thousands of people at each one of them. These guys are miraculous. They put their life into it. He never took a plane to any one of them. He drove from here to Portland. If Clay ever asked me to drive from Oklahoma to Portland, I was like, Clay, I'm going to miss one of your events. That much I can promise you.
I tried to sell. I called Laura. I said, Laura, you haven't really lived until you've driven from Oklahoma to Portland in a white van. It's got 150,000 original miles on it. You're going to love it. And you turned me down.
Hey guys, he got nothing. Well, you know what he did? He got one great thing out of it. He got an unbelievable friendship out of me, and he got an unbelievable respect out of so much of the country who loves him. But these were the most well-attended events. But they sucked the blood and life out. They went after these guys, and he never, ever stopped because he really believed. And honestly, it cost him much more than he made from it. This wasn't a money-making. I mean, Clay really believed he wanted to see this country saved, and he just was relentless in this pursuit. And Vanessa was the same way. I mean, relentless in this pursuit. And I think it's a great lesson. Whatever you believe in, go after, and go after unabashedly. Go after with all the energy that you possibly have in your body. Don't let people deter you. Don't listen to the word no. It's almost the thing that you can credit Elon Musk with the most, right? You know how many people made fun of his little idea of flying rockets to Mars? Every single one. You're never going to do that. It's too expensive. You can't do it. They're never going to let you do it. They're never going to give you the permits, right? And he just didn't care to hear the word no. He only believed in what was ultimately his dream, and he sprinted toward it. And there's no question that this is exactly what he did with Reawaken, and it made a difference. It made a massive difference. There were so many followings that you had that were so left behind. People that literally didn't have a voice anymore, who wanted to have a voice. And Clay gave those people that outlet. And so, Vanessa, please never call yourself little small business owners from Tulsa, Oklahoma. You guys were pivotal, and hopefully what will turn out to be one of the greatest victories in American history.
Appreciate that. Eric, now I
want
to
make you uncomfortable.
No, you're good. You're good. It's a weird thing because I just remember when I watched General Flynn, the stuff he's going through. I'm just like praying for you guys relentlessly. And to Vanessa's point, I really didn't believe in the power of prayer until our son was healed at all. And so, it's wild to meet you guys in the flesh, and then to meet you. And I think you're the real deal. And I love that about you. I want to get into the energy thing, the Trump family. You have a certain energy. Your dad is famous for pointing out the lack of energy that certain people had during debates. And I actually interviewed Dr. Carson on our show. And so we're off air, and I can share this enough time has passed. But I said, Dr. Carson, I want you to know, sir, I actually voted for you, but then Trump beat you. So I ended up voting for Trump for president, but you were my guy, and then Trump beat you. And he's like, I told him the other day, this is when Trump was in the White House. Dr. Carson says, and I told him the other day, I'm so glad I didn't win. And I said, I don't have the energy. I mean, it's an energy. There's a certain energy. I want to talk about the energy that you try to bring to the workplace, and that is felt within your whole team. Kim over here. Kim is a superstar. Kim, I know about my position. I can't see. There you are. That's Kim. She's great. Everyone on your team they bring this energy, and you don't seem to put up with people with low energy. Talk about the energy, what that means, energy.
Hey, listen, energy is everything, guys. And by the way, maybe the two greatest defeats of all time was using that little energy line, right? I mean, the first one was Jeb Bush. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, look, Jeb has some energy tonight. It's really great. Look, the guy showed up. Jeb, you move any further to the right, you're going to fall off the stage. I was sitting there just laughing front row, and it was a little awkward. I was kind of friends with his son, and it was like hard to sit next to a guy that you're friends with. It's like this happens on the stage. The second one was obviously Joe Biden, who had the least energy of all. But listen, guys, energy is, first of all, energy is contagious, right? I mean, I think people are attracted to people with good energy. I can't tell you. There's a flight attendant on Delta coming up here today. She had the best energy you've ever seen. I literally said that to her. I go, you're amazing. Like, you just have people are attracted, I think, to good energy, to positive energy. And then second of all, I think, energy is excitement, right? They're parallels to one another. And I think if you're excited about something, you're more convincing about whatever that is, right? If you're excited to fight the war, if you're excited to rep something, to talk about something, if you're passionate about something, if you're excited, it makes you more excited about whatever topic that is, right? You can take a person that has a different hobby from you, a hobby that you will never enjoy. Take somebody who's really excited about basket weaving. They put enough energy into it. At least you draw a little bit out of that, right? Out of their soul. It's like, this is cool. The person is really into this. They're inspired by something. And I think all of us can appreciate that. And so, listen, energy is critical. It's critical to small business. It's critical to what you do. It's critical to all your customers. And by the way, I really do feel, I don't think energy can be faked. Like, I don't think you can just go around faking the fact that you're into something when you're truly not. There have been plenty of politicians who have tried to do that, and they've all failed. There have been plenty of business leaders who have tried to do that, and guess what? They start missing days, and they start doing this, and they start doing that, and they don't commit themselves the same way. You've got to have energy for whatever you're doing, and I think that's been a big secret to success.
Now, sales. And by the way, we're going to open up for for a little Q&A session from specific people here as well. So, sales. Your family doesn't apologize for selling something. And we have your website pulled up there, the Trump website there. And you guys have, properties all over the world you're developing. And under your leadership, I think the organization may have doubled in size. Maybe I'm getting those numbers wrong. There's almost 6,000 employees. And you guys are hard charging. You're putting up a new tower in Jeddah. I mean, you guys are moving, and you don't apologize for sales. So I want to just, first, if you can just share with us a little bit, how large is the Trump organization? And then what's sort of your mindset to unapologetically selling the vision of the new tower or the new project? Or just tell us about the organization.
Well, part of it's believing, right? And if you're doing something, we always want to do the best. It's kind of part of our brand. You know, it's either going to be the best or we just choose not to do it because there's kind of no point, right? It's otherwise dilutionary toward, you know, who we are and what we do. But we have an amazing company. I came in early 2006, and we were largely residential buildings, right? That was kind of the, our bread and butter. We had a couple hotels, but largely largely residential. And I saw the greatest 2 years. 2006, 2007 as a developer was amazing. And then 2008, everybody remembers what happened. Countrywide folded, Bank of America, stopped doing end loans. So did Chase, so did everybody else. And you saw the greatest 2 years of kind of prosperity in the real estate world, followed by arguably probably the two worst we've ever seen, and certainly two of the worst we've ever seen in our country's history. You couldn't get end loan financing. I mean, good luck if you had a house in Phoenix, or if you had a house in Las Vegas, or if you had a house here. I mean, there was just no market for it, right? And so it was actually great at the beginning of a career to see how good something could be, quickly followed by how bad, something could be. And we really kind of doubled down at that time. We went out. We had done very, very well. We were under levered at that time, and all of a sudden, people started coming to us because we were really good at what we did. They started coming to us in the golf world, saying, "Hey, we've got this incredible piece of land. We don't know how to manage it. Our golf club, it's an equity club, but all the board members are fighting. We don't know what the hell we're doing. Will you come in and take it over?" And all of a sudden, we started just golf course after golf course, hotel after hotel, buying property after property at 5 cents on the dollar. And we took this portfolio and we literally doubled it in a couple of years, and then tripled it and quadrupled it. And we've never really stopped. And the company's got bigger and bigger. It's gotten more diversified. It went from really residential high rise to hotel to resort, golf course resort, meaning with hotel components, wineries, some of the biggest commercial buildings in New York, California, and other places. So big office buildings, a lot of residential projects, a lot of retail. And it's just been fun. We've been adding and adding and adding. And more recently, we've really gone into the crypto space in a very big way, because there's no question that that's kind of the new frontier. I'm glad my man over here likes, but there's no question that's become the new frontier. And I'm probably spending 30% of my time in that space. And we've got 23 projects around the world that are under development right now. It's going to be a busy year. A bunch in the Middle East, a bunch in Vietnam, couple in India, all hotels, golf courses, residential towers, and so. We've been kicking butt, and it's been a lot of fun. We're trying to keep our heads above water, but it's been amazing, and we have got a great organization, and everybody's embraced it, and we're doing great.
Now, Eric, with about the 25 minutes we have left with here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a few people that I have certified as being not crazy. I hope they don't let me down, and they're going to be able to ask you a question. The way it's going to work, if you don't want to answer the question, you can punt, and then I'll throw myself under the bus, but they should ask reasonable questions. So I'm going to bring up Randy Antrican. Can you come up here, Randy? Randy runs a company called PMH. It's a home outdoor living. He builds pergolas, pavilions. This is Randy Antrican. It's a very successful company. He's grown, I think, 8 times since we first met. He's rocking and rolling. PMHOKC.com. What question? I'm going to pass the mic to you. Just make sure you eat the mic. What question would you have for Eric Trump, sir?
Wow, on the spot, really. What's your style of managing people? I mean, how do you handle a tough situation with employees?
Well, I think it depends. It may be the toughest question. What we try and do is we try not to micromanage. If you have somebody who's immensely competent, that's the person you want in your organization, and let them do their job and let them do it well. Not to say that you can't look over budgets, not to say that you shouldn't be present, and we're incredibly present. You should set very high expectations, but get very good people, and try not to micromanage very good people, right? I mean, very good people don't want to be micromanaged, and very good people don't need to be micromanaged, and that ultimately gives you a lot of bandwidth. And it's been probably the biggest key to me, right? Especially as we got into the political stuff, and I was trying to run a massive company while trying to campaign every single day, and you're just running out of hours. If you had to make every single decision on a property level, you couldn't do it, right? There's a certain point where you have to let go, and it's hard. We're all every single one of us is a control freak. Every single one of us in our minds can do something better than the others. You want to be the person that makes that decision, but at the end of the day, you hold somebody down who's otherwise incredibly competent. You're making them worse. You're making yourself worse. You're making it impossible to grow. So much of that equation is you find a great person and you let them, you inspire them, you build their confidence, you set really high expectations, but you let them fly. And if you're not willing to let them fly, you're going to lose them, right? I mean, that becomes very, very old every single day when you're, listening to a boss, when you're arguably in a better spot to know the details of a project, of a business than they are, because you're closer to the ground, as that person has to fly high in managing a company and you're managing a specific project. So great people.
Yeah. Follow-up question too. You said you like to promote from within. That's kind of my philosophy too. How long do you need to see someone kind of just like crush it and stay consistent before you're like, man, I've seen enough. I know they're the right person.
Ideally, as long as possible. But unfortunately, in the real world, you don't have that luxury, right? Sometimes you see somebody absolutely crush it for a year, and then you give them that opportunity because you need a position filled, and that's better than going from the outside. Take the person who's absolutely crushing it every single day for a year over the person who gives you a nice resume that you've never met before, right? Every single time. Don't even think twice. It's really nice if you see somebody who crushes it every single day for 5 years and you know absolutely everything about them and that whole variability is out. Unfortunately, that's not always how the world works, right? And so you're probably seeing that. I imagine you've got project managers who are great, and I imagine you have project managers who are bad. I imagine you got guys who are detailed and will leave a job site every single night, and it's immaculate when they do, and you probably have guys that are slobs, and you're constantly trying to fight them. There's probably guys that ruin your work truck, and there's probably guys who will go get them, washed at the end of the week, right? And take that in and promote the good ones and try and build the other ones, right? Or try and set an example to build the other people. Some people just can't get there, right? And take really good care of the people who can and let them manage some of the other ones, because they're also going to set expectations that you don't otherwise have to as a boss, right? So sometimes your people can actually help others grow faster in the organization than you otherwise could, because you're always going to be the guy who owns a company and you're going to come off as the curmudgeon, right? And it's all about your bottom line versus allowing a coworker to otherwise inspire good habits. And so that's at least how I look at life.
Now, just to kind of set the pace, we're going to do 6 more questions. And Vanessa, if any of our kids want to sneak in a question, we can pull that card. So you can feel free to do it. Randy, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you very much. All right. And now I'm going to bring up Dr. Whitlock, or the Whitlocks. So the Whitlocks. Where's Brian Gibson? Is Brian Gibson here? Brian and Jesse, are you here? Okay, let's bring up Brian and Jesse. You can ask a question. Chocolani, you in the house? Chocolani? No one can pronounce your name. That's Chocolani. Come on up here for a question. Bronson, coming up here for a question. Come on up here. And again, any question you want to ask, but if it's a bad question, it means that I did a bad job in selecting who gets to ask the questions, okay? So if it's a bad question, you go, that's a weird question. Just absolutely rebuke it. Brian Whitlock, he's a cosmetic surgeon, longtime client, great guy. And one of our daughter, Leia, got bit by a dog and on her eyelid. Craziest thing ever. We immediately called Dr. Whitlock because we knew that he and his wife would take care of our daughter. She's you can't tell she ever got bit. So that's Leia right there, and that's Dr. Whitlock, the one who saved the eyelid. Seriously, unbelievable. So Dr. Whitlock, what question would you have?
Well, just a few minutes ago, you were talking about the future and that you're expanding and you're having, hotels and now golf courses, but then you threw in something about crypto, I believe. And you didn't say anything after that. So what were you meaning by that?
Yeah, it's awfully hard to explain crypto in a concise way that
rapid fire.
That Clay would. Yeah, you can't really do crypto in rapid fire, but I'm a big believer that traditional finance is dead. The big banks are dead. There's no way a home mortgage should take 120 days to get. There's no reason that you should be able to pull out $500 from an ATM machine Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 from your bank. It doesn't make any sense, right? It's not real in the modern day era. Every single week I chase wire transfers that are coming in at 4:30 in the afternoon, or that you're sending out to a vendor or a contractor or whatever it might be, a patient. Why does a Swift wire transfer take 2 days to come in? Like, again, this is not our best. This is not our brightest. The banking industry has left us behind, and beyond that, the banking industry has hurt so many people in this room. And unless you have a lot of zeros on your balance sheet, you have zero advantage in the banking industry, right? They leave everybody behind. Go to JP Morgan Chase and try and get a $10,000 loan because you want to start a dog grooming business, and they're going to laugh at you, right? So they are discriminatory. They've hurt a lot of people. They're not good at what they do. They charge you massive fees. They are slow as hell. They're antiquated. They've got big buildings in every city around the world that have JP Morgan Chase at the top of them. Every single one of those buildings has thousands of people that are pushing paper unnecessarily when all of that stuff could be done in DeFi, where all of it could be done on blockchain. And I can promise you, mark my words, I think you're taping it. If you look back in 10 to 12, 15 years, those banks, if they don't catch up with the real world, are going to be gone. They're going to be gone. And so I'm not, I'm less into the, the nonsense projects. There's plenty of nonsense projects in crypto. I'm really a believer in two things. I'm into the, kind of Bitcoin, because I really do believe that's going to be a great store of value long term. And I believe in proper utility, which is, how do you make this world more functional? How do you make it faster? How do you make it fairer to the average person? Why is it that, every single banker is getting massive fees, right? They're taking your money at the end of the day. I mean, if you can save all the fees, if you can save all the rent, if you can save all the electrical bills in all these buildings, congratulations, you're going to be paying lower interest rates, right? Like, isn't that kind of a nice thing? So why do they exist, and how do we do it better? And I think crypto is on the forefront of making that happen. So,
also, Spurl from Canada, who's maybe our 51st state, we don't know. He's going to come up here. He has a question. Spurl, come up here. And then Leon, where's Leon at? Thank you, Dr. Whitlock. Let's hear for Dr. Whitlock. Great job, sir. Okay, Leon Benjamin, come on down here as well. Also, Amanda Grace. Where's Amanda? Amanda, come on up here. Okay, so Brian, here you go. You and your wife, Jesse, you run a church, a very successful church in Amarillo, also a church in Amarillo, Texas, also a church in Kentucky. You run a ministry. What questions would you have?
Yeah, we're looking at the most subpoenaed man in American history. We ought to give him a hand clap for taking a shot in the jaw for MAGA, for America, for his family. Also, you're parenting, you're running big organizations. Tell me, what is it like, and how did you deal with the lawfare and the business and the family and all of it at the same time?
Well, by the way, this guy's seen a lot of lawfare as well, as has he. You got to compartmentalize things. At least this is what I do in my head. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm a sick, twisted individual, and maybe it just works for me. But you got to compartmentalize life as a game, right? Sometimes they're ugly games. Sometimes they're not nice. But at the end of the day, it's all a game. And when you see Nancy Pelosi sending you, subpoenas, when you see Pocahontas send you subpoenas every 3 days. By the way, did anybody watch State of the Union the other night, where he goes, look, Pocahontas, I'm so glad you want to give another $300 billion to Ukraine. That's really great. She sent me more subpoenas than you could possibly imagine. But you got to understand, it was all a game, right? And that's how you have to compartmentalize it. It's not a personal thing. Is it nice? No, of course it's not nice. It's actually horrible. It's not what our system should be. But sometimes unpleasantries in life you compartmentalize as a game, and you just need to realize, hey, that's high stakes. You better believe they would have thrown me in the gulag for doing absolutely nothing wrong had we had lost. They would have done the same to DJT. Now Hunter would have gotten away with absolute murder because you have two scales of justice, but you've got to compartmentalize life as a little bit of a game. And at the end of the day, you need to win that game. It's not fair. Sometimes it's not fun, but that's how I always, once you start thinking about, oh, I'm so sorry for myself. I mean, how could they possibly be doing this? I think you go down in a bad place. And so I always just try to take the raw emotion out of the nonsense. I think the early ones probably hurt a lot more than the later ones. Like, I became so numb and desensitized to it. Right. Like, at first, the first subpoena I ever got, scared to death. Subpoena, it's a big word. It's coming from the United States Senate. About 10 into it, they became like, you were eating Tic Tacs. They were like Pez, right? All right, shit, I'll deal with this crap on Monday. It is what it is, right? And so, no, listen, I think you have to develop a backbone. You have to compartmentalize it in the right way, and then you just have to deal with it. And by the way, talking about the most subpoenaed man in American history, I actually want to see if I can get this certified by the Guinness Book World Record. I'm not sure they're fans of ours, but again, if I'm at 116 subpoenas, and by the way, these aren't like little baby subpoenas from like little state AGs. I mean, these are from like the United States Senate. I mean, you couldn't have somebody stay in one of our hotels without sending me a subpoena. And the reason they did that was, he had executive branch protections as president, and it's very hard to get the president because of the constitutional protections that you're afforded. Guess who didn't have constitutional protections? This guy, right? And so in order to get to him, they just subpoenaed the hell out of me and, made our lives miserable and cost us, again, don't cry for us, but hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees. So, I mean, they wanted to take down the business. They wanted to bankrupt us. They wanted to find one email that had a comma that was out of place and throw us away forever. And they tried to do it. And by the way, they had a lot of crooked judges in there. You guys all saw those court cases every single day. Believe me, guys, they would have done it until it pissed off every single American, and Americans started really... In life, be careful what you wish for, right? That old adage, be careful what you wish for. if they could go back and do it all again, you better believe that they wouldn't have wanted Donald Trump to have non-consecutive terms. They would have had a president that didn't have the House, that didn't have the Senate, and instead you have a president that not only has a substantially better cabinet of all killers, but you have the other two branches of government, and you have the support of the majority of Americans by far, obviously the popular vote, having won all 7 swing states. I can promise you they're not happy campers right now, but I digress because this is a business conference right here.
Oh, no, you're great. You're great. And again, I don't want to get the hook from Kim. So, Kim, I'm watching that clock here. So we have time for about 5 more questions. But real quick, I'm not going to ask you, because I've been studying your father. So this is something that your father might say. I'm not going to ask you about buying a hotel in Tulsa and when you're going to buy a hotel in Tulsa. We don't have time to talk about that kind of thing or even suggest that kind of thing. But some people.
This bastard's asked me, what the hell is the name of that hotel?
The Mayo Hotel.
Right? The Mayo.
Yeah, the Mayo Hotel. I keep saying just buy the Mayo Hotel, put the Trump name on it, replace the Mayo. How many of you want that to happen? Yeah, like I said, just do that.
By the way, he was pushing this so hard that the last time I was here, guess exactly where I stayed. I stayed in like the nicest room in the Mayo Hotel because it was part of Clay Clark's pitch.
How many of you think it would work? Trump Hotel Tulsa? It would boom. Okay, so Jesse, question. What do you got?
Okay, so we've watched your family as you've gone through this process for the last however many years, and we see things like work ethic and family culture and legacy and those kinds of things. It makes you think that you want that in your kids. But when you look at it all, when your dad, because I feel like we didn't just get a president, we kind of got like a presidential whole family, of people that are working, and we're grateful for that. When you get done, what would be your number one thing that you would want America to say about your family? Like if you could pin it and it would absolutely happen, what would be the number one thing you would want them to say about you?
Well, I think maybe that we're a great all-American family who legitimately cared and didn't try and grift off the system like the rest of these kind of losers have for years and years and years, right? This whole endeavor has cost us a hell of a lot more than it's made us, right? And again, all we want to do is save that right there, red, white, and blue. That's all we care to do. And the first rule in politics, guys, the first rule, kind of the unspoken rule is you keep family the hell out of politics. It's been, you talk to any campaign manager over the years, and that's the rule. Keep family the hell out of. Guys, we didn't have any friends. Legitimately, we didn't have a single surrogate. There wasn't a single senator that endorsed DJT in 2016. We had to fight like hell to win the primaries against the RNC, against the mainstream media. We had no friends. The only friends we had, family. And so it was really largely DJT. It was my father, it was Don, and myself. And then Laura came in a little bit later on, right? She got thrown into, she didn't know a damn thing about politics either. And so, we were forced to defend, kind of depend, and defend ourselves. And isn't that kind of a beautiful thing? Isn't that kind of what family should actually do if you zoom out? I know it's in a different context, but we never broke. And I had a friend, and like the kind of the matriarch of the family, very old. She was in a hospital bed. And I'll never forget this story. It's a true story. She asked all the kids to bring her pencils, right? These were like her dying days. And she collects all the pencils from everybody in the family. And she gives one to one of the kids and says, "Hey, I want you to break that pencil." And he just snaps the pencil in half, right? And she goes, "Okay, do this. Take all the pencils, put them in your hands, and try and break them." And the kid couldn't break all the pencils, right? Which is, together you're a hell of a lot stronger than you are apart. And you better believe that they tried to break us apart. They tried to break up his marriage. They certainly tried to break up, kind of siblings to parents. They literally went to my mom, God rest her soul, but, they would tap, Anderson Cooper and those guys would tap on her door every single day. "Hey, what do you have to say about the president? Tell me anything." They would literally goad her to say anything, right? Anything negative about the president. She had the coolest saying. Even she wouldn't break. She had the coolest saying. She goes, "He might not have been the greatest husband, but he'll make the best damn president that you've ever seen in your life." And by the way, she loved him to death. I thought this was like the coolest statement. Terrible husband, but will make a damn good president. Something along those lines, right? But like they had like deep love and affinity for one another. And this country needs a lot more family. It needs a lot more family. You have families that are broken apart every day. You have families that, lose touch, no longer care about each other, or are so ingrained in social media. We all are, frankly. But we need the family apparatus back. We need a hell of a lot more kids in society. We need a lot more faith. So if there's one thing I could write on that poster, I think that hey, we're probably each unique in the contribution. I'm not sure if my father could have done this without somebody being able to take over the company and run it effectively while he was away. He probably wouldn't have taken the jump, right? So, I contribute in a big way. Don's contributed in a big way. Ivanka's contributed. I mean, everybody in the family is contributed in a big way, and I trust that will be appreciated, because I really do think it's the first time in American history that I don't know, maybe not American history. I mean, the Kennedys, certainly kind of fought for themselves, right? Defended one another, but there haven't been many good examples of it over the course of politics, and certainly not in the situation that we were in. And again, as people who knew nothing about this, we didn't know anything about immigration. Guys, I built hotels my whole life, and you're on Megyn Kelly trying to battle, 7 illegal immigrants about, DACA rules. You're sitting there saying, what the hell am I doing here? Is this, how the hell did I put myself in this? But guys, it's been an amazing voyage, and one that I wouldn't have changed for the world.
Final 4 questions. Thank you, Gibson. So we're going to bring up Amanda Grace. Amanda Grace, what question would you have for Eric Trump here? We're going 90 miles an hour. Want to respect your time. We don't want to get the hook from Kim.
Hello. I just want to say, Eric, it's amazing to continue to watch the work the Lord is doing in the life of you and your family. It's just incredible to watch this just enormous transformation we see that will continue, and we will continue to pray for you for that. Twofold. One, what was one of your most favorite moments from your father's historic joint address to Congress last night that you experienced? And 2, what are some specifics we can keep in prayer for you and your family, that everybody can just continue to intercede for you and your family, because you're all anointed to do this work. Your father is, but you are, your brothers, you're all anointed to do this work.
I sat up there on the balcony, and the room is not much bigger than this in terms of length, and you've got all the senators, you've got all the congressmen, and I think my favorite part was watching America look through the true evil that some of those people are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually a relatively sane, rational human being, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that can be argued one way or another based on belief and kind of sound logic. When the animals on one side couldn't clap for a 15-year-old kid that had gone through 13 brain surgeries and battled pediatric cancer, that's the opposite of what you're asking for. You're asking for, one thing that made you proud. But honestly, I think it's one thing that really showed people's true colors. It's that, right? And that there's a real sickness out there. And honestly, maybe the only beauty to that situation is in that moment, they lost all of America, right? They lost every sane, rational person. And so, it was fun watching how uncomfortable they were. Again, they lost the popular vote by a lot. They lost all the swing states, right? They lost the Senate. They lost the House. They lost everybody on that dais. They were all firmly in DJT's camp. Everybody up front was firmly, the cabinet is super effective people. The Supreme Court has 6 Republicans on it, right? They have lost this battle. They tried to win it, but they've lost it. And I think, Amanda, a little bit to see the other side scream based on everything that they've tried to do to us was amazing. But then also to see somebody who actually cared about putting this country first. What do we fight for? If you actually break down what we fought for, it's just, we want a country that's not going to be used and abused. We want to have the greatest business, environment in the world. By the way, Americans are the greatest capitalists ever. But what do we need? We need low regulations. We need government to stay the hell out of our lives. We need, low inflation, low interest rates, and then just leave us the hell alone. Stay out of our families, stay out of our businesses. All right. Give us safety. We want to have the safest country in the world. Give us law and order, right? Give us the best competitive work environment and stay the hell out of our lives. And I don't know why that makes so many people uncomfortable, but it was so nice to see that. And it's also so nice to see somebody who has backbone, who's not going to get rolled. It's so nice to see somebody who can actually get through a sentence without stuttering. Do you think Joe Biden could do what I'm doing right now? I don't have any notes. I promise you, these are Clay's, right? Just as FYI, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's a substance problem, all right. But I was really proud of him, right? He's had to fight through unthinkables, and again, he won. And there's a lot of pissed off people in that room, but I also think that they need to do some inward reflection of how they got it all wrong. No different than we all have to do. Every single person in this room has made a bad business decision. gotten something wrong. And once in a while, we have to have enough hubris to look at ourselves and say, where did it go awry? What did I screw up? How can I be better next time? And I think you have a big part of that room the other night that needs a little bit of hubris.
And how can we pray for you? She wanted to know, how can we pray for you?
God, you really that makes me blush, Amanda. Amanda's one of the finest people you'll ever meet. She actually.
Oh, you are too kind. You really are. But thank you.
We're the only two New Yorkers in this room probably right now. Actually, I'm no longer in New Yorker. I left the People's.
He left us.
I left the People's Republic of New York to move down to a free state of Florida, which has been amazing. Yeah. It's amazing. You're allowed to own firearms. You're you're not paying 16% extra in taxes only so attorney generals can absolutely kill you every single day. So now it's been a great move. But Amanda's been a friend for a very long time, and she was pivotal in the whole faith movement as well. I can't tell you how many times she'd call up and, hey, we want to do an hour of prayer for the Trump family, and we're going to have tens and tens and tens of thousands of people on it. And she'd bring in great people. I spoke at a ton of them. My wife spoke at a ton of them, and she was a big part of this movement. We love her to death, and the fact that you're here is very special.
All right.
I love you and your family. God bless. Thank you.
Next question, rapid fire. Thank you. Pastor Leon Benjamin. This is a great guy. I love this guy. He flies in every single Thursday night to teach the gospel here. So tonight, he'll be teaching the gospel here at the Remnant Church at 6:30 p.m. So if you want to watch, Pastor Leon Benjamin flies in every single Thursday night here. Pastor Leon, what question do you have here? Rapid fire.
All right. Look, it was amazing. We missed our flight last night, and so we had to stay over and catch another flight. And guess who was on the plane that me and my wife was on? And so I said, Eric. He said, he pump fist me. Boom. Yeah. But I'm telling you, look, this is 77 million people voted overwhelmingly. A lot of it, the black community made a decision to leave the Democrat Party. And I'm saying like this, black, brown, and white unite. What needs to happen now is to force the momentum. I want to ask you the question, how can we force the momentum? Don't lose any, no sleep, no dust under our feet, to keep communities keep coming in the way of core values, the family, economics, education, come on, safety, come on, standing with the police, standing with the military, building the wall. How can we keep the momentum going for you and for your family, for President Donald J. Trump?
Well, first of all, he walks on the plane. He's wearing full Trump garb, right? It was a. I actually mentioned you in the other speech over at the Pastor Jackson Church, and I mean, he comes on. It's literally like Trump Vance, 2024, make America great again, the American flag on the shoulder. I'm like, I fucking love it. You need to stop using people as props. That's the answer. You have a party that's used people as props and taken them for granted for years and years and years, and they haven't done a damn thing to help them out in any way, shape, or form, and they've taken them for granted. And people aren't falling for it anymore. The African-American community, they're not falling for it anymore. You saw that in the polls. The Hispanic community, they are not falling for it anymore. And you see that in the polls. We won Miami-Dade by a significant margin. A Republican has never won Miami-Dade County before. And that's because people are sick and tired of the crap. They're sick and tired of communism. So many of them, at least in that market, has escaped it for themselves, right? I mean, look at the Venezuelan community. Look at the Cuban community. These people are saying, I've seen this show before. I've seen this movie before. It did not work, and it's not going to work here, and it's going to take down the greatest country in the world, and arguably the only place that still gives our world hope. Guys, I go over to other countries. I travel the world all the time. I've had people come up to me and they're giving me hugs in other countries saying, thank you. You restored a sense of belief. You restored, and I'm sitting there saying, wait, you're axing. You're not American. No. You've restored hope, not just to America. Forget about America. You've restored hope to the entire world, right? But the problem is you have a party on the other side that can't, they have to put everybody in buckets. They have to. They create race wars every single day because they think it's going to benefit them politically. When the thing you should really do is just prop every single person up, create the safest streets, create the greatest economy, create the lowest unemployment across every class, right? Create the very happiness of society that we were talking about before. Give people the best schools, give them the best infrastructure. Allow them to live the American dream. Don't crush the American dream. But instead, every day we get to hear from one of these, on both sides, frankly. Oh, yeah, we're going to go rebuild Baltimore. They win, and they never look at Baltimore again. We're going to go take care of Detroit. They never Look at Detroit again. Guys, they're full of you know what. And Donald Trump was the first guy who wasn't. He wasn't, based on the fact that you had the lowest unemployment in every category that you had ever had. You had the fastest job creation in every single category. You had more people lifted out of poverty than ever before in the country. And I think people just stopped believing the nonsense, right? They stopped believing, the rhetoric. And so we've got to stop. I mean, for my father, the only color that really matters is green for the United States. He wants our country to be wealthy. He wants our country to be successful. And that solves everything else. That solves everything else. And that keeps us as the number one superpower in the world, which ultimately ensures, that the United States, reigns supreme forever. And you have a lot of countries around the world. I know I'm going off because I'm passionate about this, but you have a lot of countries in the world that don't want us to be in that number one spot. Sure as hell, China doesn't want us to be in the number one spot, and they'll do anything they can to take us out of it, right? There are people with really bad, motivations that are coming after us, and instead, we're debating whether or not, a 6'5" man, a person my size, should be swimming in women's collegiate, sports. It's insane. We're sitting there talking about transgender bathrooms, while China wants to become the worldwide currency, the worldwide language, and control all enterprise globally, take the Panama Canal, do so many other things. And we're sitting there messing around. And my father came out and said, we're done with these games. We're done with this nonsense. We're not doing this anymore. We're going to do things based on merit. Whoever's best is going to ultimately win. Whoever works hardest is going to win. And that's what's made us into the greatest melting pot. That's what's made us into the greatest system anywhere in the world. And so that's what we need to focus on. Please.
I'm going to say this. God is not going to leave your family. God is going to stay with your family forever. He proved it this time around. It is a sealed deal. Your family is in the palm of God's hands.
All right, we got final 5 minutes. We got to go fast here, 90 miles an hour. Okay, where is Josh Pearl? Josh, you here? Josh, you coming? He's from Canada, America's 51st state. He traveled down here to talk to you about his governor. Josh Pearl, what question do you have there for Eric Trump?
Eric, thanks.
He's a CPA.
Here. So, Eric, do you predict that the U.S. government will buy new Bitcoin in 2025? And if so, what does that strategic reserve look like 10, 20, 30 years from now?
You're killing me.
He's a CPA.
Listen, there's no question my father's policy on cryptocurrency is one that is incredibly positive. We either embrace it or we get left behind, and the rest of the world will leapfrog us as an economy. It's just very simple. You go over to the UAE, they're buying Bitcoin like it's going out of style because they believe in it more so than just about anything. You go over to Asia, they really, really believe in it. They believe in the digital currencies. We have to be on the forefront. We need to revolutionize banking. We have to be on the forefront of this entire movement. So as to whether or not, how we buy it, it's a little different, right? In so many of the states in so many countries around the world, right, they've got these sovereign funds, these private wealth funds, and they can go out there and they can actively buy Bitcoin. We have a little bit of a different system in this country where it's a little bit harder to effectuate going out and making massive purchases. If you look at the UAE, they turn on a little spigot, oil pops out of the ground, they have nothing to do with the money, and there's a lot of oil that's coming out of the ground. So what do? They take that and they invest it all over the world. It's very smart. It's one of, we got to get to that point where we're doing the same thing. We've got so much inflows, we've got so much revenue creation that we can otherwise go and invest in assets. What's very clear is my father's going to be the best crypto president there's ever been. He's going to embrace it in a very, very big way. He's been tweeting about that almost every single day, this week, which is beautiful. I think it's already been publicized that David Sachs has come out and said, we're not selling any of the nation's Bitcoin. Unfortunately, Joe Biden did. He sold 190,000 Bitcoin, which would be equivalent to like $37 billion today, and he sold it for equivalent of like $337 million over the last couple of years. It's such a travesty because it would have been such a great asset. But no, crypto is here to stay. You have got the most pro crypto administration in history, and I think we're in the dial-up phase. Do you remember AOL? Do you remember the little dial-up? that's the phase that we're in crypto, and I think what you're going to see from the world of crypto is going to be absolutely significant in the next decade.
Eric, 5 minutes. We're going to get one question and a group photo, and then we're going to let you get back to what you have to do. Okay, so we're going to bring up. I'm so sorry, Bronson. I'm sorry. I can't weave in your question. I got to weave in Steve. I got to do a group photo, but you'll get in the group photo. It'll be a trade-off. Okay, so Pastor Steve, come on up here. Pastor Steve, final question, rapid fire. Pastor Steve, what say you? Okay, what question do you have? Rapid fire.
All right. First of all, I wanted to
One question.
One question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I believe that Trump has been called as an agent of justice. That's why he's been put in power. A lot of people don't understand that. And everything he does with justice, he just gets grace. So I wanted to know, what is the strategy for reconstructing Gaza? And if I can add, one thing that he hasn't mentioned that I wish he would and that other people haven't mentioned is family justice is the biggest issue in the church. Is there anything going on in that area?
Listen, Gaza is a very long conversation, and whether or not we should even be the ones responsible for that. I think my father's taking a very America first, approach. It should never happened. What happened over there is an absolute travesty. What Israel's had to deal with on every front has been absolutely horrendous. But at the same time, we've got serious problems in this country. We've got $36 trillion worth of debt, and we better take care of our own before we start rebuilding foreign countries, right? And I think every American wants to see that now. And again, I'm not saying it's nice. I'm not saying it's fair. The whole situation stinks. But I think we need to prioritize our own. And I think my father's of that same ilk and mindset, not to say that he wouldn't want to see something beautiful happen there and absolute positivity in the region. Hey, listen, we had no wars. We had peace in the Middle East under our first administration. You better believe we're going to have peace in the Middle East, one way or another under this administration, simply because you finally have somebody in office that has a backbone and won't tolerate the games that have been played. The games that have been played there in the last couple of years would have never, ever happened under Donald Trump. As to the family, I think I spent a little bit of time talking about family before. That nuclear family, there's nothing more important. Nuclear family is what's going to hold this country together. We need to do a better job having kids. We need to do a better job having family, standing behind family, supporting family. It's the greatest support structure that we can have, and it's critical. It's critical to religion. It's critical to our society. It's critical to the United States of America, and it's critical to keeping us a world superpower. And so, it's why I try and prioritize, my kids as much as I can. It's why I try and maintain a very stable family. But I don't think of all the subjects that we talked about tonight, I don't think there's anything more important than family unit.
Now, we have just limited time, so we're going to do a group photo. Is that okay? So, folks, let's hear for Eric Trump. Thank you, folks. One more time. Let's stand to our feet. Thank you, Eric, for joining us here in Tulsa. Let's hear for Eric Trump.
Oklahoma, we love you. Thank you guys so much. Great honor to be here.
All right, we're going to get a group photo.
Love you, buddy.
I appreciate you very much. We're going to get a group photo. We're going to face this way. Everybody squeeze on in here. Andrew's going to come direct. Bronson, come hop in here real quick here. Everybody squeeze on in. Aaron, hop in. And Eric, we're going to have you right in the middle, then facing towards this wall here. There's a sign that says, "Good news, Eric. It's only 1,356 miles to Trump Tower." Okay, there we go. So everybody squeeze on in. Now, the way it's going to work, Andrew's going to get really high, okay, in the air, and he can get it. I'm going to squeeze in now myself. Here we go, squeezing in. Okay. Here we go. Is my wife here? Is my wife here? I feel like my wife should be here. Is she here? I feel like she's here. Is she here? Vanessa, are you here? I want to stay happily married. I think this is a key to success. Okay. I think this is the key to success. I think it's the key to success if I stay happily married. Is she here? Okay. And then Amanda Grace, you hop on in here. Amanda, come on, sneak in. Everybody squeeze in. Here we go. Is Vanessa here? Is she out? She's gone? Okay. Okay. Everyone knows. It's documented. I tried to get her. Okay. Everybody squeeze on in. We're going to do 3 photos. Okay. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Photo number 2, we're a little bit crazier. Okay, Trump won. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right, go count down to 3 from 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Final photo. Get crazy, folks. Trump 47. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Got it. All right, one more time. Let's hear for Eric Trump. Everybody, let's hear for Eric Trump in the house.
Clay, my honor to be on your show. And thank you for all you do. I hear the ripple effects from you are good ripple effects. You know what I mean? People rave about what they learned from you. So congratulations.
Sean, guess what's happening June 5th and 6th right here in Tulsa, Jerusalem?
We are probably going to have an amazing business conference here at Tulsa, Jerusalem.
Yes, we're joined by Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow is going to be joining us right here at the Thrivetime Show World Headquarters June 5th and 6th. He's a very successful football player, obviously a Heisman Award winner, but he's also a very successful entrepreneur. Now, when you work with real clients, Sean, real clients you really work with to help them grow their companies, do you ever hear a business owner tell you that they didn't have time to get something done?
Every day.
How often is not having enough time a problem for business owners?
All the time. It's like maybe 90% of the issues as people are trying to grow their company.
Well, Tim Tebow is going to come join us here at the in-person Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive business workshop, and he's going to teach us time management and his approach to personal self-discipline and getting things done. Also at the workshop, I'll put up on the website so people can see it here. Also at the 2-day interactive workshop, Sean, we are going to be, there it is. We're going to be teaching accounting, systems creation, marketing, human resources, how to hire, inspire, train, and retain great people, accounting, social media advertising, search engine optimization. Sean, what's the area where most clients ask you for help the most? Is it generating leads? Is it hiring people? What's the biggest issue that most business owners have by default before they come to one of our workshops?
Well, I think it's management, because time is the most valuable resource for these business owners, and being able to manage their time is the first thing. Once they get that under control, then generally the numbers, being able to track their business and be able to make the best decisions based on numbers rather than emotions is a big area. And we teach all of this stuff at the business conference, particularly you, Clay. You love to hammer on time management. It's my favorite part of the conference.
Now, I'm going to pull this up real quick here because we're going to go through. If you're not excited, I want to get you excited about what we're going to cover at the workshop here. Okay.
All right.
The 2-day interactive workshop. This is my 20th year hosting workshops. So I'm telling you, folks, we're in rare form here. So one is the idea of establishing your revenue goals. I think most entrepreneurs don't know their revenue goals. Would you agree, or am I off my rocker?
No, that's totally a very important point we do with every one of our new clients that come on board, is we have to establish the revenue goals. And generally speaking, we have a vague idea, but not an exact idea that can be engineered down into like the daily goals for sales. And so that's a really big one.
Now, next is the break-even numbers. What kind of sales do you have to do to even break even?
Yeah.
Third is, how many hours per week do you want to work? What is your ideal schedule as an entrepreneur? Box number 4, how do you stand out in the clutter of commerce? What makes your company unique from all the different businesses? In a world of brown cows, herds of brown cows, proverbial brown cows, the analogy of brown cows, how can you be the purple cow that stands out? How can you be the squeaky wheel that gets the oil? Box number 5, branding. How do you improve the perception that people have of you, your business, your brand? Box number 6, marketing, your 3-legged marketing stool. What is a turnkey way for you and your company to generate leads so you can succeed? Because if you don't have any leads, your business will bleed. If you can't sell, your business will go to hell. You've got to generate leads. Sean, how often do business owners by default tell you they have a hard time generating leads?
It's almost all of the time. It's really a huge struggle. And many times they may be creating leads, but just through word of mouth. So they get to a point where we've implemented systems, and then they need to create more leads, but they've never had to do it. So there's a lot of different scenarios where business owners are like, how do you create leads? Something we hammer on at the conference a lot.
Box number 7, create a sales conversion system. Again, box number 7, create a sales conversion system. Sales scripts, recorded calls, one sheets, pre-written emails, lead trackers, all of the sales tools, the sales print pieces, the one sheets, the big screens that you see inside the business. Whether you're a doctor, you're a dentist, you're a lawyer, you got to have sales systems in place. We help you with that. Box number 8, what does it cost you to get another customer? Step number 8, what does it cost you to actually acquire a customer? Step number 9, it's hard to build an organization if you're not organized. We're going to teach you how to create repeatable systems, processes, file organization. Box number 10, we're going to teach you how to manage people, real people on the planet Earth. This just in, we're going to teach you how to manage real people on the planet Earth. Box number 11, how to create a sustainable schedule that works for you and your family. Step number 12, how to create human resources systems for recruiting, hiring, training, and retaining great people. Box number 13, accounting. This just in, we have to cover accounting. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. We're going to cover all the accounting things you need to know. And step 14, finally, what is the point of even achieving success? We're going to go over what is the point of even achieving success, how to design a life that you're excited about, how to design a life where you carve out enough time for your faith, your family, your finance, your fitness, your friendship, your fun, and where you're going to spend your focused time. We're going to go through that, all this and more. Now, the workshop, Sean, it's June 5th and 6th.
Yep.
It's a 2-day interactive workshop.
Yes.
And tickets, we always do it. It's $250 or whatever price that someone can afford. Sean, why do we let people name their price? Why do we have scholarship tickets available if somebody can't afford the $250 general admission ticket?
Well, we don't want anybody to miss out on it. You know, you could be at a startup phase or you could be, you know, way along in your business, but we want to make it accessible for everybody. I think it actually goes back to a story of your dad, and like it goes all the way back to how you've always done this as a business coach, trying to make sure that, you know, your average people out there have access to the things that work.
Now, 7 a.m. to 5, Sean, why do we go from 7 to 5 both days? I mean, it's 10 hours a day. 20 hours of training over 2 days. Why do we do 10 hours a day, Sean, of back-to-back workshops? We do a 30-minute teaching session. We do a 15-minute question and answer session, and then we take a break. 30 minutes of teaching, 15 minutes of question and answer, then we take a break. Why do we do that format, Sean?
That format is so that we can keep people engaged and not just sitting there listening, but also getting involved. We really encourage people to ask questions, and that's really where the juiciness of the conference comes out, is you can put your personal situation and your questions on the board, and Clay will tee off and give you direct advice. Even without being in our coaching program, you can get direct coaching from Clay. It's really a very engaging format. I enjoyed it a lot.
Sean, final 60 seconds, pop quiz here. What date is the conference?
June 5th and 6th, 2025, this year.
Question number 2, who's our keynote speaker coming to the conference there, Sean?
Tim Tebow is our keynote speaker.
Sean, question number 3, how much does it cost to come to our in-person 2-day interactive business workshop right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
I think it's, did you say it's $250 or whatever you can afford?
That's right, $250 or whatever you can afford. Sean, how do you spell Eric Trump backwards?
P-M-U-R-T-C-I-R-E. Ooh, that took a long time.
I'll have to listen to this. And you did it right. All right, again, that's Sean Lohman. I'm Clay Clark, inviting you to come join us at the in-person Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive workshop, June 5th and 6th, right here in Tulsa, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Sean, I'm excited to have this event. I'm excited to see you at the event, June 5th and 6th, right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tim Tebow, baby. It's Tebow time in Tulsa, Jerusalem.
You could be anywhere doing a lot of different things, but you chose to be here.
Clay Clark is here somewhere. Where's my buddy Clay? Clay's the greatest. I met his goats today. I met his dogs. I met his chickens. I saw his compound. He's like the greatest guy.
I ran from his goats, his chickens, his dogs.
So this guy's like the greatest marketer you've ever seen, right? His entire life, Clay Clark, his entire life is marketing.
Hey guys, Luke Erickson here with the Thrivetime Show. As you can see behind me, we've got all kinds of energy going on. People are starting to show up for the conference, and it is hot in this place. We got grill guns over here. We've got people playing the drums. We've got a fire breather, and man, people are so excited as they come in. The conference is kicked off. This house is packed. We've got Aaron Hansis with Shaw Homes up there. We've got Steve Currington with Total Lending Concepts up there talking about what is possible when you just implement, when you do the proven system. So exciting. People are going crazy. Guys, Luke Erickson with the Thrivetime Show here with you. It is day 2 and the energy is high. People are so excited to be showing up. The team is ready. Come on, let's see what it's like to go on in for day 2. Follow me. I tell you what, people are so excited to be here for day 2. It is going to be incredible. Cannot wait to see what today has in store. Right now, here at the conference, we've broken into groups going over search engine optimization. I know for most of us, myself included, if you hear that term, you go, what is that? What does that mean? That's too techie for me. Well, our experts are breaking it down for people so that you can clearly understand how to come up top in Google. It's doable. It's possible. Now we're in in the middle of a break. And what we like to do is we like to give you as much tangible and relevant information from about the start of the hour for 45 minutes. Then we take approximately a 15-minute break to allow people to connect with other entrepreneurs around them, bathroom breaks, and also use this time to just really digest all of the good information that you're receiving the whole time. Right behind me, we've got Bob with his grill gun, melting an ice sculpture. It is awesome. The ice sculpture represents our life, right? It's here for a time, but we all need to have the sense of urgency to implement the things that we're learning so that we can make the most of the time that we have.
I heard about it on the podcast. Started listening to the podcast, became a fan, and then figured out about the workshop. I own an insurance and financial services agency, and I was hoping to learn from the workshop systems and processes. I'm big on systems and processes and always learning better ways to run a business more efficiently. The atmosphere's second to none. It's a high energy, really cool atmosphere to be around. Contagious, I would say. Just something every entrepreneur, I think, would appreciate and love. I'd say humorous, high energy, and full of substance, which I think is the key. A lot of business coaches or seminars maybe are high on motivation and making you feel good, but don't have a lot of substance that you can take back and implement, the following Monday, where his does. Man, there's a lot of valuable things. I'm gonna say, this is my second workshop. The first workshop I took back really the importance of a group interview. I used to spend hours and hours interviewing people, screening resumes, and that saving my time on that part is valuable. It was that and then the sales scripting that have been two major things just so far. Man, I think they're missing out on, expert advice from somebody who's been there, done that, built companies, has learned a lot of lessons. That's what I'm always looking for, is somebody that I can learn from that's ahead of where I am. And I think if you choose not to come, you're missing out on a lot of good advice that could help your business.
Hi, I'm Aaron Antis with Shaw Homes. I first heard about Clay through a mortgage lender here in town who had told me what a great job he had been doing for them, and I actually noticed he was driving a Lamborghini all of a sudden, so I was willing to listen. In my career, I've sold a little over $800 million in real estate. So honestly, I thought I kind of knew everything about marketing and homes. And then I met Clay, and my perception of what I knew and what I could do definitely changed. After doing $800 million in sales over a 15-year career, I really thought I knew what I was doing. I've been managing a large team of salespeople for the last 10 years here with Shaw Homes. And we've been a company that's been in business for 35 years. We've become one of the largest builders in the Tulsa area, and that was without Clay. So when I came to know Clay, I really thought, man, there's not much more I need to know, but I'm willing to listen. The interesting thing is our internet leads from our website has actually, in a 4-month period of time, has gone from somewhere around 10 to 15 leads in a month to 180 internet leads in a month. Just from the few things that he's shown us how to implement that I honestly probably never would have come up with on my own. So I got a lot of good things to say about the system that Clay put in place with us, and it's just been an incredible experience. I am very glad that we met and had the opportunity to work with Clay. So the interaction with the team and with Clay on a weekly basis is honestly very enlightening. One of the things that I love about Clay's perspective on things is that he doesn't come from my industry. He's not somebody who's in the home building industry. I've listened to all the experts in my field. Our company has paid for me to go to seminars, international builders shows, all kinds of places where I've had the opportunity to learn from the experts in my industry. But the thing that I found working with Clay is that he comes from such a broad spectrum of working with so many different types of businesses that he has a perspective that's difficult for me to gain because I get so entrenched in what I do, I'm not paying attention to what other leading industry experts are doing, and Clay really brings that perspective for me. It is very valuable time every week when I get that hour with him. From my perspective, the reason that any business owner who's thinking about hooking up with Thrive needs to definitely consider it is because the results that we've gotten in a very short period of time are honestly monumental. It has really exceeded my wildest expectation of what he might be able to do. I came in skeptical because I'm very pragmatic, and as I've gone through the process over just a few months, I've realized it's probably one of the best moves we've ever made. I think a lot of people probably feel like they don't need a business or marketing consultant because they maybe are a little bit prideful and like to think they know everything. I know that's how I felt coming in. I mean, we're a big company that's definitely one of the largest in town. And so we kind of felt like we knew what we were doing. And I think for a lot of people, they let their ego get in the way of listening to somebody that might have a better or different perspective than theirs. I would just really encourage you, if you're thinking about working with Clay, I mean, the thing is, it's month to month. Go give it a try and see what happens. I think in the 35-year history of Shaw Homes, this is probably the best thing that's happened to us. And I know if you give them a shot, I think you'll feel the same way. I know for me, the thing I would have missed out on if I didn't work with Clay is I would have missed out on literally an 1,800% increase in our internet leads, going from 10 a month to 180 a month. That would have been a huge financial decision to just decide not to give it a shot. I would absolutely recommend Clay Clark to anybody who's thinking about working with somebody in marketing. I would skip over anybody else you were thinking about, and I would go straight to Clay and his team. I guarantee you're not going to regret it because we sure haven't.
My name is Danielle Sprick, and I am the founder of D Sprick Realty Group here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. After being a stay-at-home mom for 12 years and my 3 kids started school and they were in school full-time, I was at a crossroads and trying to decide what do I want to do? My degree and my background is in education, but after being a mom and staying home and all of that, I just didn't have a passion for it like I once did. My husband suggested real estate. He's a home builder, so real estate and home building go hand in hand, and we just rolled with it. I love people, I love working with people, I love building relationships. But one thing that was really difficult for me was the business side of things, the processes and the advertising and marketing. I knew that I did not have what I needed to make that what it should be. So I reached out to Clay at that time, and he and his team have been extremely instrumental in helping us build our brand, help market our business, our agents, the homes that we represent. Everything that we do is a direct line from Clay and his team and all that they've done for us. We launched our brokerage, our real estate brokerage, 8 months ago. And in that time, we've gone from myself and one other agent to just this week, we signed on our 16th agent. We have been blessed with the fact that we right now have just over 10 million in pending transactions. 3 years ago, I never would have even imagined that I would be in this role that I'm in today, building a business, having 16 agents. But I have to give credit where credit's due. And Clay and his team and the business coaching that they've offered us has been huge. It's been instrumental in what we're doing. Don't ever limit your vision. When you dream big, big things happen.
I started a business because I couldn't work for anyone else. I do things my way. I do what I think is in the best interest of the patient. I don't answer to insurance companies. I don't answer to large corporate organizations. I answer to my patient, and that's it. My thought when I opened my clinic was I can do this all myself. I don't need additional outside help in many ways. I mean, I went to medical school, I can figure this out. But it was a very, very steep learning curve. Within the first 6 months of opening my clinic, I had a $63,000 embezzlement. I lost multiple employees. Clay helped us weather the storm of some of the things that are just a lot of people experience, especially in the medical world. He was instrumental in helping with the specific written business plan. He's been instrumental in hiring good quality employees, using the processes that he outlines for getting in good talent, which is extremely difficult. He helped me in securing the business loans. He helped me with web development and search engine optimization. We've been able to really keep a steady stream of clients coming in because they found us on the web. With everything that I encountered, everything that I experienced, I quickly learned it is worth every penny to have someone in your team that can walk you through and even avoid some of the pitfalls that are almost invariable in starting your own business. I'm Dr. Chad Edwards, and I own Revolution Health and Wellness Clinic.
Clay, my honor to be on your show, and thank you for all you do. I hear the ripple effects from you are good ripple effects. You know what I mean? People rave about what they learned from you, so congratulations.
And we went from expecting maybe 250,000 this year to we're at 400,000. Hi, I'm Kelsey with K&D's Woodruff Finishing, business owner at 23. So I've been working this K&D's company for about 5 years now, and we started working with Thrive not too long ago. And we went from expecting maybe 250,000 this year to we're at 400,000. That's what we're going to hit or exceed. So we're pretty excited about that. It's been pretty much just listening to what they have to say. Their hiring process has just really been incredible as far as finding good quality help, and the just the accountability of meeting up with them weekly, and like such good insight, the resources that they have for specific business questions. It's all been really incredible. It's been a great experience, so I would recommend it to anybody.
What I've seen from Clay and his group at Thrive is they'll give you a simple system, and it's the simple systems are the ones that people can wrap their brain around. They're the ones that people can work with on a day-to-day basis.
Hi there, my name is Stephanie Pipkin. I am 24 years old and I own Black River Falls Cleaning Services. We opened in April of 2019 and it is now mid-June of 2020. So I wanted to talk today about the success and growth I have achieved by implementing the Proven Path with Clay Clark's team and my business coach Luke from Thrivetime. It has been insane to say the least. I started working with them in mid-February of this year, so we're about 4 months in of working together, and it has completely transformed my business in pretty much every facet. So I'm gonna check my notes here. So in 4 months, my leads have tripled. I was getting probably like 2 leads a week. Now I'm getting more in the like 10 to 15 leads a week. I have doubled my number of employees. I'm now hitting the highest revenue weeks in the history of the company, week to week it seems like. We went from about 6 appointments today as our highest in February to now 14 to 15 appointments a day. And hiring quality employees has become much simpler and less stressful by using their systems for hiring. I typically only get maybe 2 complaints a month, if that, and everybody shows up to work. I just have really high quality employees now, especially in something people typically consider a high turnover type of work, you know, cleaning houses, cleaning businesses. I have amazing employees now, and I get rid of the ones who are not so amazing and bring on new ones because of, you know, group interviews and interviewing every single week. It's just been great, and such I don't waste as much time on low quality candidates anymore. And your coach will hold you accountable. I mean, which I love. Again, the tough love is really great. You know, Luke's like a stern father figure, but he's also nice, but also stern when he needs to be, when I'm being lazy and not doing the things that I know I need to do because I don't want to do them. So that's just great. Worth every penny. I mean, I'd pay him $1 million a month if I can, and maybe someday I'll be able to, but I would just say go for it. If it seems like a good fit, just go for it. Do what they say, even if you think it's stupid or ridiculous, just do what they say because it'll work. You know, people, when they look at my business, you know, people in my town, they think I'm lucky. They think I'm just, you know, things just happen for me. And, you know, maybe I am lucky, but it has a lot to do with hard work and, you know, perseverance and, you know, working till you cry sometimes. That's just being an entrepreneur, which if you're a business owner, you understand that. But it's having these systems in place of, you know, of course I'm going to be successful. It's an absolute because I have all this stuff in the background happening, and I have Luke and Clay and everybody on their team working really hard to make sure that I'm a success. And I can tell that they are just so excited every single week when I'm having all these wins and things like that. They're so excited for me. So it's the best thing ever, and I would suggest to anybody to work with them. So sorry for the long-winded reply, but I just had so much to say, and I could go on for hours probably about how amazing they are. But thank you to Clay and Luke and the entire team there, everything you guys have done for me, and I am so excited to continue to work with you for years to come. Thanks so much for watching.
My saying is, if it's important to you, hire a coach. And I think that's one of the reasons people are not successful is they eat a cheeseburger instead of hiring a coach, you know what I mean? And so my coach pushes me. They're younger than me. They push harder. They're trained. And as my rich dad always said, you know, amateurs don't have a coach, but professionals always have coaches. So I've always had coaches for whatever is important. And, you know, my rich dad was one of those persons. You're on it, man. You're on it. You're on it. Everybody listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about. You have the macro picture. Very few people have that point of view.
Clay, you're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. And as they say in Stoic, the obstacle is the way. And so if you let these pinheads get in your way, you're in trouble.